Hello, my fellow book lovers, and welcome to this month's reading wrap up. So in January, I actually ended up reading a total of 10 books, which is actually crazy to me because last year, I don't think I could have actually read that many books in 1 month. Well, granted, last year in December, I read over 20. But we're not going to talk about that. I can't believe I read 10 books this month. It's just crazy. And it was actually such a good reading month for me. And so I'm so excited to actually share with you the books that I ended up reading. A few of them were for videos that will be up very shortly. So you will see more in-depth thoughts, feelings, and things like that on those books. Some of them I didn't vlog at all. And I just want to share those with you. So like I said, I read 10 books total this month. And I ended up reading, I think, 5 physical books and then 5 digital. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I guess I read 6 physical books. I read 4 digital books and then I ended up reading 6 physical books. So the first book that I actually ended up reading on my Kindle was a book called Just Go With It by Madison Wright. And this was actually a really cute, like sweet little romance. This was like a nice palate cleanser and a good like one to start off the year with. This book is actually the first in a series. The series follows 2 other couples that are mentioned in this first book, but this book actually follows Lo and Weston, and they were actually friends in college and they're still friends now, but Weston is actually like this huge social media star and Lo is just someone he's friends with who's kind of like struggling to get by. Weston is like, I need to have a better image, asks Lo to marry him. So basically it's a marriage of convenience because she's struggling and she needs healthcare and he's like, I got it, how about we get married? And she's like, okay. That's the best explanation I can give you without giving too much away. It was actually just a really sweet, like fun little rom-com. Wes was super cute. You know, he's just like a cute little book boyfriend, and Lo was just kind of there. I actually don't remember much about this book. I literally read it right at the beginning of the month, so I don't remember a lot. I did actually really enjoy it. It was a really sweet romance. This is a closed door romance, so there's nothing going on that you could see. But honestly, Madison Wright, I thought her writing was so good and she was such a cute author, and I can't wait to read the other books that are in this series because I'm actually excited to follow along the other characters that are mentioned. I ended up rating this book a 4 stars actually. I really enjoyed it in the moment. I think thinking back to it now, I'd probably give it like a 3.75, maybe 4 stars because I don't really think about it. I did really enjoy it, so I think the 4 stars is pretty good, honestly. I do highly recommend it, especially if you love like light, fluffy, closed door romances. This one, I would compare Madison Wright very closely to Sarah Adams if you're like looking for a comparison author. Next up is a book that I read in another video that you will be seeing shortly, and that is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. This is the last book in the Knock 'Em Out series, and I actually loved this book. Like, I went into this with such like low expectations because of what everybody else was saying. Like, I saw so many reviews of people being like, this is just not the story I was expecting. I'm just a little disappointed. They didn't feel like it was Lucian and Sloane's story. They felt like it was like a Nina or Naomi like 2.0 story. And when I tell you, I feel like that's just not the case. It's just not. Like, I felt like this was a perfect sum up to Sloane, combining their names. I felt this was a perfect wrap up to Lucian and Sloane's story. Yes, you do get a lot of the other characters in the book, but they're friends. So like it makes sense. Like it makes sense that like they're with her while she's going through this like difficult time in her life. Beginning of the story starts out with Sloane and something like kind of happens to her that like kind of tracks the rest of the book as to like why things are going the way that they are going. It starts out a little bit sad for Sloane. Something I did feel though with this book is that it was a lot of Lucian and Sloane separately, not a lot of Lucian and Sloane together, which was fine. I thought it like made sense for their characters and then for them to eventually like come together. I actually ended up really loving this one. But like I said, this was like a perfect wrap up to Lucian and Sloane's story. I felt that like this story was so on brand for the characters because like obviously Lucy Score, like she knows her characters. Like she knows Lucian and Sloane. Like she wrote them, obviously. This book I felt like was just so on brand for them, and that like, yeah, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I'm not disappointed by it because it was just so on brand for them. I ended up rating this one a 4 stars. I love this book. I just thought it was great. I really enjoyed it and loved the like almost true enemies to lovers like plot line and how they like grew and how they like transformed into this like really nice couple. Okay, so the next 2 books I'm actually really excited to talk about, and I ended up reading them on my Kindle because I don't physically own them, but this was a series that I really wanted to read in 2024, and that is the Chestnut Springs series. So I read the first 2 books. So I read Flawless and Heartless back to back, obviously. Both of them, chef's kiss. I literally was so giddy and smiley and like just could not stop like being so absorbed and into these characters and into these books. Like Elsie Silver, beautiful author. Oh my god, like I can't believe that she wrote these books and that like I'm so excited to now continue and finish the series. First thing, the banter, great, in both books. Banter is great. The chemistry for the characters, love them. The dialogue, I usually find that like certain dialogue in like certain books, especially since that she writes spicy scenes, I tend to not like sometimes the dialogue. Like sometimes to me it's just too cringy. She made it seem and flow so naturally that it was like what you would actually say. You know, like the other author that I find that does this very well is Emily Henry. And not that I think that their styles are like really like similar, but like when they're writing dialogue, it's very similar. I really, really enjoyed that about both of these books. Flawless follows Rhett and Summer. And basically, if you guys don't know anything about the Chestnut Spring series or this book, basically Rhett, he is a bull rider and Summer works for her father, who is his agency. I hope that made sense. So basically what had happened was he has been kind of getting some bad press lately. Her dad, who's his agent, is like, you're gonna have a babysitter for the summer. And guess who it's gonna be? He's like, it's my kid. It's my daughter. She's basically just like being his agent and everything like that for the summer and like basically making sure that like no more bad press comes out about him or anything like that. So that's basically how the story starts and how it follows. And she basically just follows him around to all of these events for him being a bull rider, which I love. When I was reading some of the stuff though, I was kind of like, because, okay, weird, I don't want to say it's a flex because it's not a flex. Weird flex for my dad. My dad used to be a bull rider. So like I used to grow up watching my dad do stuff. He was never a professional bull rider like Rhett is, but like my dad was a bull rider. So like one of the things that they did was like how nonchalant one of the conversation was as he was sitting in the chute on the bull getting ready to go. I was like, you're not doing that. At least from what I remember, you're not having that type of conversation while you're getting ready to ride the bull. Like, that's just not happening. That was like the one thing, but I don't know, maybe her experience or like when she did research that like other people have done this. I just don't remember seeing that very often. But anyways, moving on to the next one. Heartless follows Summer's best friend Willa and Rhett's brother Cade. And I actually loved this one. This one has an age gap and he's a single father trope. This one was definitely a lot more like, I don't want to say lust driven, but more lust driven, like more like she was definitely attracted to him right off the bat and he was attracted to her right off the bat, so it was definitely more like driven that way. Cade's like this grumpy father and Willa's just like this bright sunshine and she's nannying for him for the summer. He is the one who runs the ranch that they all live on. Willa's just there, she's just this wild child watching his kid and he's like, I don't know what to do. I hope that was a good explanation. It probably wasn't. I'm not good at explaining books, as we know. Chef's kiss all around. Two fantastic ones. And I love like the cowboy, like rodeo, like energy that these books give off because I just love it. I love it so much. Yeah, I ended up rating both of them a 4 stars. I just absolutely loved these two again. Like I just, the banter, the romance, the connections, I was just like eating it up. I could not stop laughing. I could not stop giggling, kicking my feet, getting so giddy, like blushing. I'm so excited actually to start the 3rd book in the series because I love me a hockey romance. Moving on. Next up, I actually ended up reading these books at the same time, but ended up DNFing one. So the first one that I read that I didn't end up DNFing was Alive at Night by Amelia Reese. I think that's how you say her last name. And this is the first book in the series. So this is actually an enemies to lover romance where it's her best friend's brother. They grew up basically together, always just been around. She's always been like basically a part of their family. And he's always like hated that because he's low-key always had a crush on her, but he also now can't like distinct like his feelings for like not liking her for actually liking her and like doesn't know how to like not be a dick. Basically what ends up happening is that they both end up working at the same law firm. Okay, let me read you the synopsis for this book because I'm not very good at describing books, but I definitely think that you guys should read it because I think that she's a really great like indie like upcoming author. Former childhood enemies Julian and Juniper are forced to work together, but a simple exchange could change everything. He needs help with a case and she needs a fake boyfriend. So it's enemies to lovers, fake dating. That's all I need. honestly, in a romance. But unfortunately with this one, I have read so many plot lines like this, and every single time I really do usually just eat them up and like love them. This one just didn't hit for some reason. Like it just didn't hit the same as like other ones. I ended up rating this one a 3.5 stars. It's still really good. I still highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for like a spicy enemies to lovers fake dating romance. I still think this is a great option, and there's going to be a second one, which I do think I'm actually going to like more than this one, just based off like the characters and who they were. Something about these characters I just found like, not that they were annoying, but like not my favorite, not the best. I don't know. But I'm going to meet my husband for lunch. He got on break early. I will finish this when I come back. All right, reader beavers, I am back. So I last just left off at Alive at Night, and like I said, I ended up giving that one a 3.5 stars. So moving on to the next book that I ended up reading, and that was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And this was actually my DNF for the month. Honestly, I've never DNF'd a book before. I have always been the type of person who's like, no, if I'm gonna read it, then like I just want to finish it, see how it ends, because you know I could like it more than I thought I was going to. But this year I've decided that I am not going to continue reading books that I'm just not interested in, or books that I just don't like, instead of like pushing through them and like putting myself in a slump. Because let me tell you, I really thought I was going to be in a slump with this book. So I ended up DNFing it. I can see why people like it if you like historical fiction, but that's just not for me. Like it's just not at all for me. I got basically like 50% of the way through and I ended up DNFing it. I was just like, it's not for me. The writing was just so choppy, and the only thing keeping me going was the subplot of romance. I knew that the story was going to be very sad, so I was just like, you know what? It's fine. I'm gonna just leave it here. DNF. Moving on. This is another book that I really was like almost tempted to DNF. I got like a good portion of the way through before I was actually really enjoying what I was reading with this book. This and The Song of Achilles were actually two different books in another video. It was another book that was just very much outside of my comfort zone, and it's definitely not my cup of tea, and because it was a literary fiction novel and I'm not a big fan of literary fiction, and that was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I was kind of bored for a good majority of it. The beginning is very much based on like them building the video games together, like very much like the whole like video game talk and like the intricacies building like a video game. And what I was definitely more interested in was like the lives of the two main characters, which was Sadie and Sam. Like you just didn't get that much of it at the beginning, but like you started to get it a little bit more towards like the middle-ish. The way that the book and the relationships for the characters played out just like wasn't like what I was expecting or like what I wanted. The ending I liked. It was like a nice wrap up, but I didn't love. Like it just like left it kind of open-ended to like for a repeat of history almost. I just didn't like that. The book follows Sam and Sadie, and basically they meet at a really young age, and then they kind of drift apart, and then they meet again in college. They're in the same college town, and Sam goes to Sadie because they bonded over video games, and Sam was like, I want to build a video game with you, and she was like, okay. So they ended up building a video game together. The entire story is following that plot line of like Sam and Sadie, of like their developing friendship that they have and like work partnership, and then like all this other stuff that like comes with it, and like building video games together. That's like what this book basically follows. If you're not super into like the whole video game building, then this maybe isn't for you. I thought it was cool, but like I didn't love it. I was really bored. I didn't get really into it until about like halfway through. I think even more, and it still took me forever. Like the pacing of this book is so incredibly slow. This book isn't even that long. Like this book is actually genuinely not that long. It's like I think under 400 pages, and it took me over a week to read it, like over a week and a half. I'm pretty positive that Heartless is also over 400 pages, and that took me like less than 3 days to read, while this took me over a week and a half. So like the pacing of the book is just so incredibly slow that it's like really hard to get into, and it makes you feel like that you're not into the book. I ended up giving this one a 3 stars. I thought it was good. Like honestly, the like writing style and like thought process and the purpose that the author has behind everything that she's writing is actually incredible and fantastic, and I can totally see and like give credit to that. Like obviously, like I have to, like there's no way I wouldn't. Everything she writes, there's a reason. Like there's always a purpose, there's a reason. Like nothing is like said just to be said. And I recognized that immediately, and I was like, wow, like the writing is so fantastic. I'm not a fan of this genre of literary fiction. So like that was like a really big disappointment for me, just because I loved her writing. Yeah, if you like literary fiction, I definitely think that you'd love this book. I can see why people love it. Just like I said, wasn't for me. Okay, and then the 3 final books for this month, let me tell you, I am unwell, okay? I am a changed person and I don't know how I can function as a human being anymore. Like, I literally have thought nothing of these books since I finished them, and I just love them. I love the two main characters. Like, they were just amazing. Like, the storyline, like the writing, everything about them, I absolutely loved. I will never get over this. I am forever unwell because of it, and I'm not being dramatic. And this was another series that I wanted to read in 2024, and I'm so glad that I finally did, because I am just unwell. And that was the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. Jax and Evangeline have me unwell. More like Jax has me unwell. I am obsessed with Jax. This is how I get, like, with every male main character, honestly, because they're gonna be the death of me. This entire trilogy was absolutely amazing. Like, this is a 5-star series, like 5-star series. If you have not read it, you absolutely need to. I finished A Curse for True Love yesterday. I literally, like, immediately started looking up, like, the special editions. And the other thing that I also have to say before we get, like, right into the reviews, like right at the beginning, A Curse for True Love has 3 alternate endings, okay? If you want to read the alternate endings, you need to read this one first. This one, like, if you read this one first, all the other ones will make a little bit more sense. And then I think it's the Owl Crate one. If you end up getting that one, or like looking it up, because that's what I did, I looked them all up, you need to read that one last. This one first, I think it's I don't remember what the other one's called. You just look up alternate endings, they'll come up. Barnes & Noble exclusive, that one first. Owl Crate, last. Whatever the other one is, because I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me for some reason. Waterstone? That needs to be read second, okay? Like, it just, like, makes so much sense. And let me tell you, I am unwell from reading the 3 different endings. That is what also made me very unwell. Anyways, let me review these. The Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy follows Jax and Evangeline. So technically the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber comes first, because Jax in the Caraval trilogy, he shows up, I think, in the second book. I don't know what role he plays, because honestly, I didn't read it. I know you don't have to read that trilogy to read this one. They're just in the same universe, and sometimes it helps because I know that the 2 main characters from that trilogy have crossed over into this one, but they have a very small role in this first book. Once Upon a Broken Heart starts out Evangeline. She is very upset because she thinks that the love of her life is about to get married, and she just wants to stop the wedding. So what she does is she strikes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, who is Jax, to stop the wedding, and in return he wants 3 kisses that he can use for his advantage for whenever he wants. Except that Jax's kiss is fatal, so whoever he kisses dies. So the kisses aren't for him. The kisses are for whoever he chooses her to kiss. Jax is a fate, and apparently making a bargain with a fate is very dangerous. So either this is going to end very badly, or it's going to end in her happily ever after. When I read this first book, it was nothing like I thought it was going to be. Like, I am so pleasantly surprised about this first book of, like, the way that the story was happening, because it's not what I was expecting. It was so not what I was expecting. I almost was, like, rooting for another character in there, even though I knew what the love story was. Like, I knew the love story was meant to be between Evangeline and Jax. But once you meet the other character, you're kind of, like, rooting for it as well in a way, because, like, Jax is a villain. Even though you like the villain to change, it's kind of like, I loved him from the beginning. I just needed more Jax in my life in general. Like, I knew what my true intentions and true end feelings were. I was like, no, like, Jax. For the other character in this book, I'm kind of like, oh, he's not so bad. I ended up rating this book a 4.25 stars. Absolutely loved it. Didn't give me that 5-star feeling exactly, but, like, I just knew, I was like, yo, this is a series I'm gonna be obsessed with. The next up in the series is the Ballad of Never After, and this is my favorite. This one, obviously my favorite. This is everyone's favorite, and I know why. Like, I read this and I knew why. I was so immediately unwell after finishing it. I was like, oh my God. I was so heartbroken. I was so heartbroken for Evangeline. The story itself, beautiful, chef's kiss, absolutely loved. But basically, this book picks up literally right after where we left off in Once Upon a Broken Heart. You jump right back into the story, like literally immediately after, like maybe like 10 minutes after what you find out in the last page of it. You jump right into this one. Evangeline is still trying to find her happily ever after, and she doesn't know if she can trust Jax. But in this one, you get a whole bunch of Jax. You get a whole bunch of Jax, okay? Let me tell you, like, The man may be a jerk, but he's a jerk for good reason. Like literally, like you see like so much of like why he is the way he is in this book, and like actually kind of like explains a little bit more as to why, and like it just breaks your heart. It just does. It just really does. And I loved this one. This was a 5 stars, hands down. 5 stars, my favorite book in this series. And honestly, one of the parts in the book, literally like, it didn't give away anything, but like literally they said it and I didn't realize like that's kind of like what that meant. And I was just like, oh, I was so heartbroken. Literally right when I read it, I was like, no, like I know how the book is gonna end and I am so sad. I mean, I did know how it ended like in a sense, but I also didn't know how it ended. The ending was very, very surprising. Keep that in mind. The ending for this one, very surprising. The last one is A Curse for True Love, which I did end up loving as well. This one, I think I gave a 4.5 stars, and I can't wait to reread this series, okay? I literally cannot wait, okay? A Curse for True Love, again, literally picks up right where you left off in The Ballad of Never After. So once you find out what happens in The Ballad of Never After, right here, you're picking right back up, okay? In this book though, you get a lot of the other characters' perspective. So you get multiple POVs in this one, which in the other one, you only get Evangeline's, but it's all told from 3rd person POV. So it's still all Evangeline, except in this one, but this one you get all 3 characters. So you get Evangeline, Apollo, and Jax. Don't get as much Jax in this one, which I didn't love, but for the way that the story played out, it makes a lot of sense because like you really need to see like who the true villains are in this story, how it's gonna play out to work in favor of Evangeline. Literally, Evangeline's journey and story in this one is just like such like a full circle moment of like her in like wanting to find happily ever after. I loved this book. I was so addicted. I literally couldn't think of anything else at all. I have been going back, rereading passages, like things that make me smile and everything like that. I just keep going back to them. I keep going back and I love them. So yes, I gave this one a 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved this series. The entire series as a whole, literally like the way it's written is so incredibly beautiful. Like I have never read any book or book series that is like this, like the way that she writes. Her writing is almost like so romantic and like magical in a sense. Like it's very fairy tale. Like what makes this young adult is definitely, well, like the contents of the book actually like doesn't feel like you're reading a young adult book, but you are. Like there's no spice, there's no like anything like that, but like it doesn't feel young adult when you're reading it. It's just like because it's such like a fairy tale that like you're just like so absorbed. She writes like so very like whimsical, and I did actually film a reading vlog of this series, so that will be coming out soon. I'm very, very excited about it. It is a spoiler-free one, so if you want more in depth about it, like you'll get more in-depth review of this series in that video. Or if you just want to hear more thoughts about Evangeline and Jax, because I'm here for it. I am literally here to talk and obsess about it, okay? She just knocked it out of the park with this series, okay? Let me tell you. I absolutely loved it. I fell in love. Like, these are like gonna be like some prized treasures. I really wish that I had this in the hardcover so that they would all match, but unfortunately I don't. All right, you guys, but that is it. That is every single book that I read in January, and like I said, it was a really good month. Please let me know if you read any of these books. I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings on them because like I said, I love talking about books and I just want to hear everybody else's thoughts and feelings on them because I love them so much. But yeah, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to follow me on all my social medias as well as subscribing to my channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.